Amen.
Thank you, Lord.
Want to say, first of all, to all the mothers on today, happy Mother's Day.
All right.
Amen. Praise the Lord. But there is a word for today. I know it's a very interesting book to be able to come out of for Mother's Day. But we want to turn to the book of Ruth as we focus upon Mother's Day. Ruth chapter 1. And we're going to read verses 1 through verse 5. Amen. In the book of Ruth, chapter 1, it says, "Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled, that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi. And the name of his 2 sons was Mahlon and Chilion, Euphorites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Oprah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died, also both of them. And the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband." I want to use for a subject today, a mother's love. You can be seated in the presence of the Lord. If there was a book, and we know that all scripture is given by the inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for instructions in righteousness. But if ever there was a book that talks about a mother's love,
Amen.
I believe that this book, the book of Ruth, is one of those books. Because when we look at a mother and we look at a mother's love, a mother has this unique way of always trying to bring out the best, not only in her children, but the best in all of those that she encountered. And Ruth was no different, because this woman, first of all, when it starts off, it says that there was a famine in the land. And this woman was so much a model woman, to where her husband had decided that because of this famine that's in the land, we need to relocate. And for a mother, y'all, who has children, not really knowing what to be able to expect, she trusts her husband's judgment enough, because she knows that he is led by the Lord, to where she's willing to relocate and to be able to follow her husband. She was one that believed in being submissive to her husband as unto the Lord. And so she trusted that her husband had the right guidance, the right direction for them to be able to move forward and to be able to move on in life. I have to just sit back and ponder about this woman and the decision that she had to make, because there was a famine in the land where they lived at, but yet still she trusted her husband enough to know that he had made provisions, he had made preparations, that he had the interests of the family at hand, and she wasn't going to stir it up, but she trusted God enough that she would be willing to relocate, to move with her husband and her sons. And so they get up and they move to the country of Moab. And you would think that the journey, y'all, was a pleasant journey, because they're excited now because they've relocated from Bethlehem, Judea, and they moved down to Moab. And you think now that they're down in Moab, everything would be going all right. But something happened down in Moab. Her husband now dies. her husband dies, and she's left her and her 2 sons. Now, for her to be able to relocate with her husband, that's one thing, but now she's in a position to where now she's not only have to be a mother to her children, but she also have to be a father to her children. Now she's in a position to where she's left all alone, being able to train up a child in the way that they'll go. I think about my mother, y'all, on this Mother's Day, and how my mother also was left in a very vulnerable position to where my father left, and my mother had the privilege of being able to raise 7 of us. Now, for many who has experienced the storms of life, it's easy to reflect back and think about all that you're going through. But one thing that I found out is that, have you ever noticed that a mother's love, y'all, irregardless of what the mother's experiencing, she won't show those things because she knows that the responsibility is to be able to train up the child in the way that they'll go. In other words, I will put all of my stuff on the back burner in order to be able to teach you how to be able to go and be productive and successful in life. She's now got the responsibility of raising these 2 young men, but she's not only just raising them to be masculine men, but she's raising them to be respectful men, raising them to be able to love the Lord with all their heart, raising them to be able to be productive and successful, raising them so that when people will look at these men, that they know that these are men that's worthy of whatever God is placing upon them. And watch this now. She's raising them to let them know that one day you're going to be in your father's shoes. One day you're going to be able to have a wife of your own. And what I need you to do is that when that time comes, I need you to be a man of respectfulness. I want you to be able to learn how to love your wives, to be able to let your wife know that she is your helpmate. Let your wife know that how much you love her. When the time comes for you to be able to have a wife, I want you to treat her with the utmost modest respect to let her know that she's part of you. And so the time came, y'all, where these 2 young men, they took wives. One was named Oprah and the other one was named Ruth, and they dwelt there about 10 years. Now watch this. She's left with her 2 sons. She has given her sons a mother's love, teaching them how to be respectful men, not just running out there doing everything in the community, but teaching them how to be able to rise above situations and let them know that I know that your father has gone on to glory, but you still got somebody who cares about you, who love you, who still want to give you the best value so that you can be the best young men that when the time comes and God gives you a wife, you'll know how to be able to be a man of respect. And so the time came when they got husbands, and watch this. Not only did she be able to raise her sons, but now she's got 2 daughter-in-laws. Watch this, y'all. Apparently there was a connection between the daughter-in-laws and the mother-in-law, because she taught them with respect. She appreciated them for being their sons, her sons' wives. She respected them. Now, not only does she have the privilege of being able to raise her sons, but look at what God is doing. God is now giving her 2 daughters to take up under her wing to be able to teach them how to be respectful women, how to be able to love your husbands, how to be able to trust in God, how to be able to be the best woman you can be. But tragedy happened. Not only has she lost her husband, but now she's lost her 2 sons. She's left in a very vulnerable position again, where it's easy for her to just be able to, later on you'll find out she says that my name is Morrow because the Lord has allowed all of this to be able to come up on me. But she's left without her husband. Now she's left without her two sons, but a mother's love, y'all, looks beyond boundaries because she still feels that she's got a responsibility to be able to allow these women to grow, to be women of God, to be women of character, to be women of respect, to teach these women how to love unconditional. And so she do all that she can for these young women. And time came, y'all, after these women had lost their husbands. All of them are in a very vulnerable position, and so she gets up to relocate back home because she sees now that the Lord has been favorable to her homeland, Bethlehem, Judah, and so she decides to be able to move back home, and she got her daughter-in-laws with her. But one day takes off, she realizes that if I bring my daughter-in-laws back to the place that I have no more sons to be able to give them. And so she has a conversation with them and says, no, baby, look, why don't you just return home and find favor in your mother's house? I don't have any more sons to be able to give you. As a matter of fact, at my age, if you wait all that time, you would be an old woman before I can even have children again. She looks out for her daughter-in-laws, but one thing I found out after she had the conversation with them, the women said, no, we don't want to go, but one of them decided to go on back home. Oprah decides to go on back home, but there was something unique about Ruth. She says, no. She said, where you go, I'm going to be able to go. Now, y'all missed it, y'all, because a lot of this story, y'all, we always pay attention to Ruth, we pay attention to Naomi, but look at a mother's love, because the women, y'all, that her sons married, it was something about those mothers that was unspoken too, because those mothers were teaching their daughters how to be able to love your husband, in the sense that they have lost that the mother have lost her husband and they lost their sons. Watch one of the things that the mothers that are not even named, but yet still they taught their daughters before they began to be able to receive their husbands. They taught their daughters how to be able to honor true widows. Indeed.
Well,
y'all missed that, huh? Because watch this. Naomi is now a true widow, but yet still she has a conversation with her daughters and her daughter-in-laws, and Oprah decides to go on back home at Naomi's request. But Ruth, watch what she says. She says, no. Where you lodge, where you go, I will go. Where you live, I will live. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. In other words, she didn't want Naomi going back home having the mindset that she had that I'm just moral now because of all that I've been through, but she wanted to be able to honor true widows indeed. A lot of it was the teaching that she learned from Naomi, but a lot of it, y'all, was unknown teaching that she received from her own mother, because her own mother behind the scene was teaching her that one day you're going to be a wife. One day you're going to be in the same position, and I need you to understand that you got to love your husband. You got to trust enough in your husband, and in the midst of situations happening, you got to realize this. Sometimes you got to allow the things that come into you not to be able to spill over to others, but you've got to learn to be able to love unconditional. I went to a funeral on yesterday, and yesterday's funeral was my aunt's funeral, and my aunt had experienced some things in life, but one of the things that many had testified about was that all that she went through, the sickness that she went through, the suffering that she went through, every time you saw her, she had a smile on her face. Every time she encountered you, she always was one to encourage you. She realized that, yeah, I might be sick in my body, but God is my strength. She realized that God said that in the midst of your weakness, He is your strength. And so anything that every time that you encountered her, she was one that would build you up and not tear you down. She was one that would give you a smile. She was one that was an encourager. She was one that was a compassionate giver, because all that she had, it belonged to the Lord. And if you were in need, she was one that was willing to be able to give it to you. But watch this, y'all. And so was Naomi, y'all. So they go back home, and when you look at chapter 2, beginning at verse 1, it says, Naomi had a kinsman of her husband, a mighty man of wealth of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And watch this. Here's a mother's love again, because there was something about Boaz, y'all, that goes unknown, because it's not talked about his mother, but somewhere along the line, his mother was teaching him that about the family history, about the family tree, about the family respect. A mother's love was teaching him how to be able to be the best man you can be. A mother's love was teaching him how to trust God, how to be able to walk in righteousness, how to be able to live a life of victorious. And so watch this. Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn, after in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. Now y'all missing this thing, because watch this. Now while God, you know how it says that we know that all things work together for the good of them who love the Lord, who are called according to his purpose. Look at what God is doing. Naomi has suffered a loss, y'all. She suffered a separation from her husband. She suffered separation from her 2 sons. She's got one of her daughter-in-laws with her. Her daughter-in-law, they get back home to her homeland. Her daughter-in-law say, I got to do my best to be able to support my mother-in-law. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm willing to go out into the field to be able to make whatever provisions that I need to be able to make, y'all, so that I can take care of my mother-in-law. But my mother-in-law, guess what she was doing in that time? She was praying.
All right.
She was praying for her daughter-in-law. There's something about a mother's love, y'all, that'll always make a mother get on bending knees and begin to start praying for her loved ones. She's now in a position, y'all, that she could have just went on about her business, but she loved her daughter-in-law enough to allow her to come and to be able to expose her to the lifestyle that she grew up with. Watch this, y'all. And it says that as she began to go out into glean and to reap of the harvest, y'all, something begins to happen. She goes in the field that belongs to Boaz, and Boaz is family, y'all. And there's something about family that when we teach the traditions about family, that families ought to love one another. Families ought to be able to have respect for one another. Families ought to be in a position to not hold one down and push one down, but to be able to help build one up. Every time you look at a family, y'all, everything is not perfect, but sometimes people go through things. But isn't it good to know that there's strength in family, y'all, that we're able to build one another up, we're able to encourage one another when things are going on. But there was something about the tutorage that Boaz had received from his family, y'all, and so he realized that he finds out who this damsel is, and finds out that this was the one that was married to my family member, and she has suffered a defeat because my family member has lost her husband. She's lost her 2 sons, and this young woman that accompanied Naomi has now lost her husband. And so there must be something about it, because I'm watching her. She's going out in the field. She's doing what she's got to do to be able to help her mother-in-law, y'all. And it says she finds favor in his sight. God was working this thing out
Right.
so much that Boaz has a conversation with her and tells her, just glean in my fields and stay around the women and all of that. And Boaz was working this thing out. God was working this thing out in his life. But something happened, y'all. Naomi finds out who field she had been in, and she find out whose young man it is, that this is Boaz's field. And so watch what she does. She don't want her Ruth to be all alone all of her life, and so watch what she does. She begins to give Ruth some guidance on how to be able to get a good man. Isn't it amazing, y'all, that in the time that we're living in right now, when a mother son has departed and gone on to glory, and the daughter-in-law is still left, y'all, it's too often that they're always fighting and struggling over the stuff that was left, y'all. Or too often they've got their own divisions that's going on now, because the mother's son is gone on to glory and her husband is gone on to glory, and now they won't even sit and talk and all of that stuff no more. But something happens in this particular text, y'all, because Naomi loved her daughter-in-law, and so she didn't want her daughter-in-law to have to stay in this vulnerable position. A mother's love began to give her guidance on how to be able to get a good husband. So watch what she does. She comes up with a plan. She said, now, this is what I need you to do. Say, Ruth, we know that this is Boaz's field, and we know what's happening right now. And next time you invited, this is what I need you to do: wash yourself. Put on some perfume. Change your clothes. Go down to the threshing floor. That's good. And where he lies down, this is what I need you to do. Lift up the cover of his feet and lay down. Have you ever been in a position, y'all, to where you sit and you've talked to some wise women, and some wise women have given you some advice on how to be able to get a good husband? They're not telling you to go to club after club, do all of these things. No, they're giving you some proper godly wisdom so that you can be able to find you a good man, a man who love the Lord, who are able to be all that God wants him to be able to love the woman that he got. Yeah, she give her some good advice, y'all. While I was thinking about this, I had to think about my sister-in-law. My brother-in-law, God has called him home to glory, but my sister-in-law, even though her husband has departed, every now and then you still see her come around my mother-in-law. And when she coming around my mother-in-law, she always said, "Mother-in-law, do you need anything?" She's always there to be able to make sure that she's got everything that she needs. She comes there. She don't come there with frowns. She comes there with excitement. She comes there with love to let mother-in-law know that I love you, girl. If you need anything, I got what you need. Don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call me and tell me what you need. Matter of fact, I'll go out of my way, because girl, I know I got your back. There's something about a mother's love, y'all, to where a mother begins to start training up her children to be able to go in the way that they should go. When I think about this lesson, y'all, I have to pause and say, I thank God for my mother. My mother, y'all, even though she raised all 7 of us, my mother had already taught us how to be able to love the Lord our God with all our heart, our minds, and our soul. But throughout our tutorage, y'all, she knew that us men, that one day we would also have a wife. And so guess what she did? She taught us how to be able to love our wives, respect our wives, to value our wives, to trust our wives, to learn how to lead our wives, not in a way that's defeating, not in a way that is all about me, mine, and I, but in a way of compassion, a way to let her know that you got her best interests at hand, a way to let her know that you don't mind getting up early in the morning and going to work and do what you got to do to be able to support the household household. My mother was one, y'all, to where she wanted us to know that, hey, you are somebody special, and because you're somebody special, the woman that you're going to be connected to, let her know that she's special too. And that's why I wake up every morning and I always tell my wife, I love you. God is a good God, y'all. All things work together for the good of them who love the Lord. This woman took her daughter-in-law under her wing. Her daughter-in-law took her mother-in-law under her wing, and together, look at what they were doing. They were being able to sit around the table now and laugh and talk about the glory of God. I remember times that we were going through this, but we trusted God, and look at what God did. I remember times that we all had some issues that were going on in our life, but we buried that because we realized that greater is He that abides in me than he that abides in the world. I realized that all the stuff that we were going through, that's okay. We know that weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. When you read the rest of this story, you'll find out that joy does come in the morning. Boaz, y'all, realized that he was it was his responsibility, because it talks about when a woman is married to a man and they don't have any children, and that man dies, then the next one has the responsibility of being able to connect with her so that they can continue the lifeline in going. But Boaz realized there was one that was before him that was next in line, and so guess what he does? He don't go around it. He go to him and tell him all that's available, and he says, I'll claim it. But then he tells him about Naomi. I mean, he tells him about Ruth. This woman from another country is over here. And he said, no, I can't claim that. He said, well, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to trust God. I'm going to do what I'm in line to be able to do. And when you read this love story about a mother's love, y'all, this was a story about mother's tutelage throughout this whole book, y'all. Naomi was a virtuous woman. Ruth was a virtuous woman. But the mother of Boaz was a virtuous woman. The mother of the two women, y'all, were virtuous women, because all through this you see mother tutelage and you see mother's love. This Mother's Day, I'm proudful that every one of us will look back over the faith hours of our lives and realize the sacrifices that our mothers made. Realize the tutelage that our mothers taught us. Realize the unconditional love that our mothers gave us. We understand that we've all made some mistakes. We've come short of the glory of God. But even when Dad was gone, Mama was still right there. Mama was still saying, hold your head up, shake that dust off the bottom of your feet, get ready to stand up and be who God has called you to be. Mother would tell you, baby, change that frown into a smile. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy, it comes in the morning. Mama will tell you, pull them pants up. Make yourself presentable. You don't know who you're going to run into today. God is able to order your steps. Baby, you are somebody. Hold your head up high. Let somebody know who you are. You are a child of the King.
All right, all right.
There's something about a mother's love. I love this book of Ruth because I love the ending of it. How Boaz goes on and marry her, and they begin to be successful in life. What the devil meant for evil, God, He meant it for good. Throughout this story, y'all, we see all kind of ways that the devil came in. He comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. Can you imagine if they just sat back and focused on what the enemy did, y'all? They would have been left in a very vulnerable, depressed situation. but they trusted God enough to know that all things do work together for the good of them who love the Lord. She wasn't worried about whether or not God had called my husband home. Yeah, it hurted. She wasn't worried about whether or not God called my sons home. Yeah, it hurted. But God is still giving me responsibility to be able to show this young woman how to be a woman of God, how to be a woman of character, how to be a woman of respect. She gave me the privilege, and I'm grateful for this young woman. I'm grateful for her mother's tutorage, letting her know that love your mother-in-law. Honor true widows indeed. I know you could have went out and did your own thing, but look at what God was doing because you trusted Him. The tutorage I give you today. Love your mothers. Respect your mother's tutorage. Grow in the way that she would have you to grow. In Scripture. Remember, every one of us have been blessed with a mother. Every one of us have been blessed with a virtuous woman. Every one of us have sat under sound, positive love.
Yes. Wow.
A mother's love. Mama, from the bottom of my heart, I love you, girl. God bless you. May God keep you. It's my prayer.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
I remember mama in a